Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is your host, Majestic, speaking with another episode of Mechwarrior Online here. And today it's a very special edition of Mechwarrior Online because today we're going through the brand new skill tree that was just released in the latest patch note update. So we did a stream yesterday, and today I figured we would actually tackle the skill tree itself. There are a lot of questions revolving around the skill tree. You know, even something as simple as how does it work? Exactly what should I be looking for? What are the mechanics that are involved in this new skill tree? How should I, use my points on the skill tree? So today, not only are we going to go through an overview of the skill tree and everything it entails, but we're also going to go through different types of builds, different types of play styles, and my own personal opinion of where those points would best be used. So just some options for you guys to think of when you're taking out your mechs, thinking about a particular role that you want to play, and exactly how you want to use those skill points. So again, we're going to start from square one, and I figure, although they mentioned all this stuff in earlier patch notes and even in the public test servers and everything like that, I figured doing a live, overview of everything for you guys to look at. Obviously, you're going to get this recorded version of it, but to refer back to it, see exactly what I'm talking about here. I took a lot of time since yesterday, even just understanding the dynamic, understanding exactly what I would want to do with my mechs, and exactly how I should play them, given the fact whether you're catering to one specific weapon type, one specific playstyle, one specific weight class of mech. So there's so many things to take into consideration with the brand new skill tree, and there is just so much customization now on top of the customization that was already available. So we have a tremendous amount of customization to go through. So I'm going to try and make this video as condensed and consolidated as possible for you guys, but I also feel that a very, very serious level of detail is needed in order to completely understand exactly what is going on here and how this is kind of a pivotal moment in Mechwarrior Online, especially from a customization standpoint, in making every single mech you take on the battlefield unique to your own. There are so many different combinations with this new skill tree that, it's really a treasure box at this point in time for creating content. So we're going to start from square one. I have in front of me my Bushwhacker X1, and this is actually the Machete 2.0, which I already am releasing that video before the skill tree. So I'm going to show you how I'm actually going to navigate through the skill tree on this one. It is fresh from the update, so it does have all the XP, the historical XP and everything. So it's a great little example here to go through in order for you guys to understand the mechanics. So if we first pop into the mech lab, first I hope you guys notice there is no fourth tab here anymore for the skill tree. So if you click into, for instance, let me just select a mech. So we'll start from square one. If you look at the overview here, you see you have historical XP, SP, which are skill points, and that is pretty much your skill tree currency, quote unquote, if you will. So if I click into the loadout and everything is the same. Nothing has really changed in this particular manner. You still have your weapons, ammo, equipment, and engines. One thing I want to point out about this is if you click on consumables, you can see that there are now 5 different slots for consumables. So if I open up the coolant flush, you can see that the Cool Shot 18 is now the only purchasable consumable, whereas this was only purchasable by MC before the patch. So definitely a cool move there that they put the 18 for C-bills, which you can refill, so I will be doing that. Strategic Strike and UAV. So advanced UAVs, you can either purchase again for MC or C-bills. Same with the airstrikes and same with the artillery strikes. So I'm going to go with the airstrike here if I open this up. And what I'm going to show you guys in a second is the actual skill tree itself. So let's actually just save that for now. And now, if we look into the mech lab, so we selected a mech, we went through the loadout, and now we have this brand new tab, the skills tab. And if we click on the skills tab, we are opened up to this crazy looking little, overview here of everything that we can apply on our skill tree for this particular variant, this particular mech. And one of the first things I want to point out here is that every single mech is unique. And what I mean by unique is that every mech, whether it's the same variant of the same mech or not, is one in of its own. So it's all individually compartmentalized. So regardless if you have 3 Bushwhacker X1s, 1 Bushwhacker X1, 10 Bushwhacker X1s, every single one of them is unique. So understand that now before we actually dive into the mech enhancements aspect of the skill tree. Now, this little diagram up here in the right corner, this is probably what is most confusing to everyone. It's like you're looking at it, you're like, what is this SP? What are the active nodes? What are the skill nodes unlocked? What's available? What's historic XP? I have no idea what is going on here. So let's start from square one. You can see here that on my X1 I have historic XP. That is historic XP that came before the patch update that is now transferred into the current state of the game that I can use to spend on skill points. Okay, so again, this is just one form of how you can actually transfer your historical XP to applicable skill points to activate these nodes. If you highlight over any of these initial nodes, you can see that they do have that little SP icon here. So that is something that you need to understand and take into consideration because of the fact that there are many different ways of getting SP. Now, let's check out what happens if we want to add SP. So we want to get these nodes activated. We want to open these guys up so that we understand exactly how we can start building this mech out. I know for a fact that before this patch note came through, that this mech was mastered. I had the X1 completely mastered, so I'm expecting a lot of transfer over from before the patch update to be applicable here for this particular mech. So if I go to add SP, this is what you guys really need to grasp as much as you possibly can. You can choose a method of adding SP, so skill points. You can either add them from historical SP. So right here you see I have the X1, but I also have the X1 Special that came with the pack. So it's showing that I have 2 variants of the X1 that I transferred skill points over historically from before the patch that I can now use in the active game mode that we have in front of me right now. So that is one method in which I can spend historical skill points. Now, there is a total of 91 skill points per mech, per variant, per chassis, per everything. So 91 is what your golden number is here. That is to fill it out completely for the first time around. So if I tick this all the way up to 91, you see I have 91 here, and I have 91 remaining, so I can put this on my special variant if I so choose. Or I can purchase a third Bushwhacker X1 and put the 91 on that one and make that a fresh start kind of mech applicable with the 91 skill points, so on and so forth. Also, from historical XP and from historical GSP, I should say, you see I carried over 18,560 skill points that were transferred from before the patch to now. These are general skill points that you can apply on any mech. So even the ones that I had unmastered, not even basicked from the last from before the patch update, I can use general skill points and have a mastered mech immediately. So there is no you have to basic 3 mechs anymore in order to get access to eliting the mechs and then eliting the 3 mechs in order to get to the mastery level. Every single mech is unique in and of itself. So at a moment's notice, you can transfer over 91 skill points if you have enough in the general skill points and master your mech. No wait or anything. You can just automatically transfer them over as soon as you see them come out and transfer it into that particular mech so that you can use it at the mastery level. That's if you decide to use general skill points. I'm going to use historical skill points. So I have the historical skill points because I have 182 between the 2 variants that I just mentioned. But before we actually commit to that, I do want to show you guys the other forms in which you can generate either GSP or, you know, any kind of GSP. So you can also purchase your skill points. Now, this is what might have confused a couple people. And the first fact is you have XP. That is XP that you're generating now that the patch update is currently in, you know, the brand new form of Mechwarrior Online. Right now, how the game is right now. So if you took your mech out right now and got XP from it, this would actually start to populate. So I haven't taken out the X ones since the patch update, but I do have some GXP that I stored, so I can transfer the GXP in order to get skill points. I can transfer historical XP on this particular variant. So I generated 73,569 on this particular variant. So that is, regardless of how many of that same variant of mech I have, this is a pooled historical XP. So I will go through that in just a second. Or I can use C-bills in order to transfer, you know, in order to convert C-bills into GSP. Or not GSP, SP for your particular mechs. So if I click on here, you can see that obviously I don't have any XP in the game in its current state. By using the XP points that, you know, because I haven't taken it out since the new skill tree came out. I can use general experience points, and you can see as I go up, 91 is the magic number. So once you hit that, you know that you're going to be able to at least fill out every single node on the skill tree. Now, it does cost every single person, if you decide, or every single mech rather, every single mech, if you decide to transfer GXP or historical XP, or even XP if you rack up enough, it costs 72,800 GXP, XP, historical XP, whatever it is. So regardless of what you know, form you're using, it costs 72,800 experience points in whatever form in order to get the 91 nodes, you know, to activate on your tree. It also costs you almost 4.1 million C-bills to do that. So this is if you have a very, you know, an unmastered mech that doesn't have anything, you just bought it, maybe the javelins or something like that, where you could either use GXP, historical GSP, something like that. So, you know, this is very, very raw. So if you don't have any experience in any capacity on this mech, you know, this is the maximum amount that you would spend as soon as it enters into your mech lab, okay? So just take that into consideration. You can also do combinations of it. So I did, let's say I wanted to do, you know, 50 skill points from GXP and 41 skill points from historical XP. So I get this up to 41. And you can see that, you know, even in summing these two up, you're still looking at that 72,799, you know, XP, regardless of what form you use, and it's still that 4.1 million C-bill mark that you need to hit in order to get it there. So this is how, you know, you do have to take this into consideration in how you actually want to get your skill points, okay? So regardless of how you want to use it, some are using, you know, you could use GXP, XP, historical XP, but every time you are using some form of XP and C-bills if you decide to purchase your skill points using this side of the options. But, as I mentioned to you guys before, hopefully all this makes sense. If you have any questions on it, please feel free to leave it in the comments section below. But I hope that makes sense. If I go back to adding SP up here, again, I already have the historical skill points. There is no reason for me to use XP, GXP, historical XP, or C-bills in any form because I can essentially master this mech right now with historical skill points. I don't even have to use general skill points because I have the historical ones. I have 182 that is of no cost to me that are transferred over from before the patch, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 91 here so I know that I can fill out this skill tree entirely based on how I want you know, to master this particular mech. So if I hit OK, I will obviously transfer them over. Reset will just bring the bar back to 0 so you can kind of mix and match. Again, I could do 50 historical skill points and 41 general skill points, vice versa. Whatever you want to do, as long as you have enough, you want to make sure that you at least get up to 91. Once you get to 91, then you're mixing and matching, and you're going to tweak your mech. So, you know, don't think that 91 is the be-all, end-all number to look for, because obviously, as you see fit, you might want to make certain adjustments, transfer over some more skill points to work with in order to unlock different nodes on each skill tree that you go through. But for right now, I'm going to take 91 historical skill points. So let's confirm that. Are you sure you want to migrate historical skill points to your mech skill points? The cost is 91 historical skill points. Yes, I want to do that. And now you can see that now the available skill points here now changed to 91, where it was 0 before. I don't have any active nodes, and I don't have any nodes unlocked. So as you can see, we haven't clicked on anything here. There is nothing available for us to do down here because we haven't selected anything. If I wanted to, for instance, make historical XP transfer over on the X1, you can also transfer historic XP here. So although I have one variant of my X1 back here, let's say I wanted to do 30,000 XP on this particular variant of my X1. I can transfer that over, and look what it says. Are you sure you want to transfer 30,000 historic XP to this Bushwhacker X1? This will draw from the historic XP pool shared by all Bushwhacker X1 variants. This historic XP transfer cannot be reversed. So if you do decide to do this, and you decide to apply, you know, for instance, 30,000 XP to this particular variant of your mechs, this pulls from all of the historic XP that you've generated across these mechs across all of time. Okay, so you do have to take that into consideration when you're actually mastering your mechs, or you're getting your skill points and everything like that. So just for the intents and purposes of the video, I'm going to pull up my other Bushwhacker X1, and now, as you can see, it is back to 0. So we took out the same exact variant. This is these nodes, these transfers and everything are not applicable across all variants, and I really want that to hit home for you guys. So now you can see that I have the 73,000 in here. I did not transfer anything over, but let's say I want to transfer over, I don't know, 10,000. So I can transfer the XP, and this time if I do it, you see the historic XP goes down to 63,000. I now have 10,000 XP applicable to this Bushwhacker. And if I do want to add skill points, you can see now I can either choose the 10,000 XP, I can use, you know, straight from the historic experience points, which is now down to 63,000 versus 73,000, or any of the other previously mentioned methods of transferring, you know, from either XP or C bills to your skill points. Also, as you can see, I used another variant of, of the same variant of the Bushwhacker, but now I do not have 182 historic skill points. I only have 91. So if I want to get the 91 on this particular variant, I'm going to put these up to 91. Okay? So, you know, and once I do that, I would have 0 historical, historic skill points left for my Bushwhacker X1 variants. Okay, all of them across the board, so that does not change. But now, let's go back to our original X1. So what I was saying to you guys before, now you can see we have the 91 nodes there, and even on the old X1, that just to prove the concept here, we don't have any XP on this particular variant. We only put it on our other X1. So we have 63,000 left to pull from that historical XP pool. So as I mentioned, it is not transferable across all of the same variant of a mech. They are very individual. They are unique in and of themselves. So be very, very careful when you're spending your historic, you know, values and everything, as to whether or not, you know, it's going to be a, something that you actually want to spend on that particular variant, or if you want to start from scratch or mix and match, maybe, put a certain amount here and a certain amount there. It's completely up to you guys. So now that we have the 91 skill points, we can start working our way through the tree. And that's the whole thing. You want to get the skill points here. 91 is the magic number because you want 91 out of 91 active nodes. So let's just say we start going through, armor structure. I'm just making my way through the skill tree, figuring out exactly which ones I want to use. I'm going to go maybe all the way down here. And then I'll look on this side, which one would I rather? Shock absorbance, reinforcement, skeletal density, reinforced casing, skeletal density. So as you can see, I made my way through this entire armor structure tree. I'm not using AMS overload in either of the two nodes that are available. I'm also not going as far as, shock absorbance to carry 2 nodes each on each side of this tree in order to reach the final node of armor hardening, and I'm saving myself 4 points. So as you can see, I just spent 29 skill tree points of my 91 available. So it will update as you continue to click through each of these nodes, and it also shows what the enhancement is to that particular mech. So it shows your armor bonus, structure bonus, fall damage reduction bonus, crit hit chance receiving. That is absolutely critical. So, when you think about building out your mechs and everything like that, you can keep working through all these different skill trees and everything like that. But it's critical to keep in mind exactly what kind of mech you're playing, what kind of role you want to play, and kind of mixing and matching, because there is going to be so much customization involved on every single variant now, and with the new tech even coming out later in this summer, the possibilities are literally going to be almost limitless if you think about it. So just take that into consideration. I mean, you really have to figure out exactly how you want to play your mechs. Okay, so if I hit apply changes, it will fill out this entire tree. It will take the 91 skill points away from my available skill points, and it will update. But if I did want to revert back, I can get rid of all my unsaved changes, and then that will erase all the progress that I've done so far before actually applying or saving my my current skill tree. So if I do that, you can see they're all back. I get my 91 nodes. Only once you actually apply the changes do these actually transfer over. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, I think we've gone through the dynamic and the understanding of how to actually get your SP for your mechs. And, it might have taken 20 minutes to do so, but I think it was absolutely critical to do that because a lot of you guys are wondering exactly how the transfer works and everything like that. And just in case you guys were curious, you can always view the ledger. This is your personal ledger that shows how much was actually transferred over from before the patch and to after the patch to see exactly, how this works and how much you got back in your consumables for MC, in your consumables for C-bills, your modules for C-bills, so on and so forth. So as you can see, I got a pretty healthy injection here of C-bills and everything, even GXP, so on and so forth. There was a lot that came back into my account for it. I thought it might be a little bit more. I thought I had a lot of modules and stuff that I thought would have gotten redeemed for full value, and I was expecting more in like the 350 to 400 million C-bill range. I've heard people some upwards of 600 million C-bills to work with on this. So I mean, I guess I was expecting a little bit more. But, I'm working with what I have, and I do like to grind through my C-bills pretty quickly. So I'm trying to take my time with this. This is a whole new concept, a whole new methodology behind building out your mechs, and that's something that you should be taking into consideration. Now, I'm going to leave my Bushwhacker up just so that we can keep a skill tree here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each mech. Actually, you know what? Why don't we go through a light mech, a medium mech, a heavy mech, and an assault mech, and talk about different ways in which you can configure your mechs and what nodes to take into consideration. So these are going to be all my personal opinions on what are really kind of critical when considering what to take out there on the battlefield. And kind of the mix and match approach that I'm looking at, okay? So let's first take a look at, okay, so I did, I went through the entire skill tree on the Javelin 10P. So let's take a look at this guy, and I'll show you my skill tree on here. So you can see I filled up a large quantity of the weapon skill tree. I filled out the entire armor structure tree for everything that I wanted, except for reinforced casing, shock absorbance, and the armor hardening, you know, all the way out to this side. So saving 4 nodes on each side gave me an extra 8. I felt that agility, structure, and armor and weapons were the critical aspects that I wanted to take into consideration here. I did add some stuff to the mech operations and sensor systems as well, and then the miscellaneous. So, for a generic standpoint, and this is just, you know, whether you're taking out a light mech, medium mech, heavy mech, or assault mech, there are some nodes that I think are absolutely critical that you really should take into consideration every single time you build out your skill tree in order to make your mechs, you know, not only fun, but durable, longer lasting, critical out there on the battlefield. And that's what I'm going to go through first. And I'm actually going to start all the way down here. Miscellaneous. Only if you really want to go for all these consumable slots and the cool shot, cooldown and all that stuff, you know, working on your, pretty much all of your consumables. That's the only time that I would ever think about, you know, filling out this skill tree. Or if you want to be a narker or something like that, you can go through the enhanced narc, the coolant reserves, the expanded enhancing spotting and stuff like that. But absolutely critical, regardless of what role you actually want to play, I highly suggest taking the consumable slot bonus +1. That gives you an extra consumable slot on any mech that you decide to take. So, and it only takes up 1 node, so you have 90 skill points remaining that you can use, and you have your extra consumable slot for, you know, a UAV or an artillery strike or something like that, on top of the cool shot that you might have in there. So, I always recommend taking this because you want to have a couple consumables there, you know, obviously to use, and the cost benefit is definitely there. 1 node, extra consumable slot, and you can fill it up. As for what else I think is absolutely critical, is the armor structure tree. Now, this is going to be very applicable to beginner players and even comp players. So, you might get away with not filling out this tree in, say, the pug queue, for instance. You know, running around doing trial builds, because, I mean, you know that every pug match is just, it's like 52 card pickup. You just don't know how they're going to fall every time. So, that's probably the only situation in which I would not think that this is necessary to fill out this entire tree. But especially if you're doing group drops, or you're a new player, or you're on a comp team or something like that, highly, highly, highly recommend filling out the armor structure tree for every single one of your mechs. That's what's actually giving us, you know, the bonuses that I was talking to you guys about before. So if we look at the overview on this mech, if we, for instance, look out the, let's see. No, actually, I'm going to stay here on the skill tree. You can see, I did the enhancements, so you can see the everything if I go down here. So a lot of these quirks and everything are applicable that I did. So look at that. Based on filling out this skill tree I placed on the Javelin, I get a 16.8% armor bonus, a 35% structure bonus, a fall reduction of 30%, that's with the shock absorbance, and then where's the critical, let's see, the critical hit chance, there it is, critical hit chance receiving, -6. So, you know, you're talking about durability. You're talking about staying on the battlefield for a longer period of time. The armor structure tree is absolutely critical, I think, for every mech, and it just depends on how far out you want to go. Obviously, shock absorbance is not something that everyone's going to think is absolutely essential. That pretty much just reduces your fall damage from, you know, a great height. For instance, if you're using jump jets or something like that, it reduces the impact and the damage that you inflict on your legs. So I decided that it was more cost efficient to just work my way down this way, save the 8 nodes, and put it into something else, obviously using a light mech. If you are really anal about making sure that your armor tree is full, obviously you could fill all of these out and just take 8 node points somewhere off the rest of your tree. So it's up to you guys. As you can see, I have already made some adjustments here. I've backtracked a little, I've modified this mech, I've messed around with it a little bit, and I've made some adjustments already. So I do think the armor structure is obviously very, very critical. And I think even to a certain extent, you can also apply that to the agility tree. You know, a lot of people want to have that kinetic burst and the hard brake. So you want to make sure that your mechs are speeding up to their full speed very quickly and, you know, falling back and stopping on a dime. So hard brake and kinetic burst I felt were essential, especially for, you know, the Javelin being a light mech. You definitely want to be very quick, very agile, and you also want to stop on a dime if you need to. So I filled out part of the tree, at least on this side, because it was more geared towards the kinetic burst and the hard brake, whereas on this side you're looking more, I mean, you do have the kinetic burst and stuff, but it's more about torso yaw and pitch and speed and stuff like that. So definitely more on this side than on this side, just because there were more nodes applicable to what I wanted. So it's up to you guys how you want to run it. Obviously, you know, you pick and choose which ones are applicable here. One thing I will point out is I do not think, unless you're a die-hard speed demon, that, you know, you'd be filling out this entire agility tree every time in order to get to speed tweak all the way down here at the bottom. I mean, if you already have a fast mech, the incremental difference from having speed tweak, obviously, you know, going speed tweak 1 is on this side, 2 is on this side, 3 is on this side, 4 is on this side, 5 is on this side. So at most, if you only filled out half the tree, you know, you'd have a 4.5% increase in your speed. And is it worth it? To me, not necessarily, okay? So just take that into consideration when building out your agility tree. I also like mech operations because that helps with your heat efficiency, your gyros, and your heat containment, speed retention, and everything like that. I avoided the hill climb side, so you can see hill climb 1, hill climb 2, hill climb 3. They're all stacked on top of each other, so unless I actually want to get to heat containment, cool run, quick ignition, and stuff like that, these 3 nodes, that, to me, is the only reason why I would ever unlock these particular ones. But I decided I wanted to go with quick ignition, get a lot of heat containment, improve gyros, which reduces the amount of shake in the cockpit in case you are receiving damage, heat containment and cool run. I want to make sure that the mech is running very heat efficient on the battlefield, so I filled out a couple nodes here. And obviously you can make your way all the way down here to the bottom, where Cool Run 4 and 5 are, which is a 4% bonus to your heat dissipation. So it's up to you guys how you actually want to, you know, configure it in this perspective. But I wanted to take a little bit of nodes for this, simply because I really felt that for a light mech, you know, obviously they're usually running cooler unless you overload it with weapons or anything like that. My Javelin that I have behind me is a brawler, so again, I wanted to have that quick, the agility tree open, and I also wanted to have a little bit of heat efficiency on the mech operations tree to make sure that it works pretty well. And that's just how I decided to set it up. Sensor systems, I thought that they were absolutely critical. The Javelin is not a very heavily armored mech, so I decided that in order to be pretty stealthy, backstabby, not heavy CM or anything like that, you know, lerms are pretty much going to be a new meta, especially in the pug queue at this point. That is not a bias, that is just fact, and I can go into that in a little bit. But, you know, filling out the sensor systems hopefully will help the most, because obviously that's how you get to the radar deprivation, the seismic sensor, and everything like that. So it's up to you guys how you want to work that. As for the weapon tree is the biggest of all the trees, and there are so many different ways in which you can go about this. The particular variant that I have behind me of the Javelin is all missile focus. So I know that, you know, unless I really want to enhance like cooldown, velocity, heat generation, and everything like that, I'm going to be sticking to the left side of the tree. And one thing I can say, unless, you know, and one thing I want to point out here is, if you're using mechs that boat weapons, I feel like this skill tree definitely rewards those who are boating particular weapons. So you're going to see a lot more lerm boating, a lot more you know, laser vomit, a lot of DACA and stuff like that. Stuff like that you have to take into consideration, because you're either missiles on this side and then energy down at the bottom. You know, the energy is pretty even, but it's either missiles on this side or ballistics on this side, and then eventually you meet up down here for the laser durations and everything like that, which are equidistant from where your starting point is. So just take that into consideration. There's a lot of boating that's going to be going on. So all the variants that have like a heavy amount of one thing. So for instance, the Javelin behind me, the one that I'm using here, which one is it exactly? The 10P is the missile boat variant. So I know that unless I really want to enhance the cooldown, heat gen, and velocity, I'm not even going to touch the right side of the tree. I'm going to focus entirely on this side, and you can see you get the range bonuses, velocity, high explosive missiles, missile spread, missile explosive, missile rack, missile spread. So it's up to you guys how you actually want to configure it. I didn't fill out the entire left side of the tree because I didn't want to use it on like range and cooldown and you know, extra nodes here in order to get to another missile rack or anything like that. But you know, by the way, missile rack just adds the amount of missiles per ton that you have on the mech. So you can see what the current values are down in the right-hand corner. And I'll leave that up here for a second so you guys can see how that's applicable. But just to take that into consideration, you know, if you are boating particular weapons, you're most likely and more beneficially going to focus on either side of the tree, not the entire tree, unless you really want to focus on your offense and you know, take away some value in one of these other trees down here. So it's completely up to you guys how you want to do it. I'm just adding my 2 cents here. Obviously, I was able to fill out a lot of this tree, the entire structure tree, a good amount of the agility tree. You know, a healthy balance between everything that I wanted in my Javelin 10P. But yeah, so that's one thing to take into consideration. Now, that is because I am boating. So as you can see, I have all missile hardpoints on that 10P in the background. But if you guys were to focus on, you know, for instance, my Bushwhacker. And this is just a generic overview of boating versus, you know, multiple types and weapons, weapon loadouts and everything on there. You know, if I go through the skill tree, I'm going to fill it out right now with you guys exactly how I would do it. And I'm probably going to leave this on for a little bit. So one thing, as I mentioned to you guys, I'm going to go with all of the armor structure bonuses. I'm definitely, not AMS. Reinforced casing, there we go. And I think, yeah, that's the 29 that I was looking for. As for the agility, I would probably do maybe a kinetic burst and hard break. Yeah, hard break. Let's do more kinetic bursts. And where is it? Is there another hard break around here? Yeah, so we have 2 nodes for the torso yaw. So there we go. Maybe I'll finish it like that and you know, kind of just stick here. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. It doesn't have jump jets, so I don't even need to worry about that. You know that the mech doesn't even have the capability of using jump jets or the jump jet part of the tree, based off this this red warning sign, I guess you could say, disabled due to incompatibility with your current mech's loadout. So unless it has jump jets on it, you never even have to worry about it. As for the yellow ones, contains some nodes that have no effect in your current mech's loadout. Okay, so just take that into consideration. Another thing, as I mentioned, I'm going to fill out that consumable slot. I'm not going to make it a stealthy kind of Bushwhacker, especially if I'm making it tanky and quick and pretty much on the front lines. I'm not going to think that I need it as much as, you know, say a stealthier, lighter mech that I might want to do some backstabbing with or something like that. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on this, and you can see I use 39 skill points now. Maybe do skill retention, heat containment, cool run, quick ignition, and go like that, you know, and just leave it at that for now. Consumable slot is there. I'm not going to even do target info gathering or anything like that for now. You know, this is just a raw build, so heat shielding, not going to have to worry about any of that. Now I can start focusing on the weapon tree. And what I was going to point out to you guys, so I showed you what it was like to boat weapons, but if you look at this Bushwhacker's loadout, we are all over the place. We have SRMs, we have machine guns, we have LB-10s, we have small pulse laser in there. So really, it's like a Frankenstein-y kind of build where you're using every single weapon type. So, to make the best use of your nodes, to make the best use, unless you're really really want to stick to one particular weapon type or particular, loadout on your Bushwhacker, for instance, like, more missile, like more towards the missile variants or something like that, focus on the generic nodes, okay? Don't worry about the high explosive ammo. Don't worry about the Gauss charge, the LB10 spread, the magazine capacity. Yes, some weapons on these loadouts you'll be using more than others, but the cost benefit here, you can make it a generic increase to all range. So, for instance, do all range, you can see in the bottom right corner, increases range of all ballistic, all energy, all missile weapons. So that is a more cost-efficient way when you have these Frankenstein builds to work through the skill tree here. So I'm going to work on cooldown, maybe some range. Yeah, we'll go this way. Heat gen, velocity, heat gen, range, cooldown, heat gen, cooldown. See, I'm up to 77 skill points used already. Cooldown, heat gen, heat gen, heat gen. They're right on top of each other. And maybe I'll start on this side now, because I know if I can either do missile spreads and laser durations, I can do the range, but then I'd have to go through the missile rack to get to the next node. So I think I would go more towards maybe this range, velocity, cooldown, heat gen, velocity, cooldown, heat gen, cooldown. So you could see there are no particular, missile or energy or ballistic weapons that are being used that I really want to focus in on, because it's a smorgasbord. The Bushwhacker has a smorgasbord of weapon loadouts that you can use on there. So if I can make better use of my nodes, putting them more towards all these generic nodes that help every single weapon type, I think that that's more cost efficient. So that's really my personal opinion that I could say about this. Obviously, you can mix and match now. So if I, for instance, didn't feel like I needed more kinetic burst, I could take 2 nodes off here, and you can see I'm down to 90. And in case I want to have another heat gen bonus, put it on here. So it's really up to you guys how you want to do it. And that's what I mean by there are so many different possibilities that you can go about, configuring your mechs and everything like that. For the mech operations, not going through any of the hill climbs here, I'm sacrificing 3% heat containment, 6% heat containment, and 2% cool run, 7% quick ignition. Not really going to worry about that too much. I don't have any kind of sensors on this mech or anything like that, but I'm happy with how this looks, because that's how I want to run it. So taking all this into consideration, I'm going to save it, apply the changes, and you can see it shows the total amount of SP that I'm using in order to do it, confirm it, and there it is. So you have everything is saved, everything is applied. Now, if you do decide to, backtrack any bit on here, so let's say I unequip that, you have 89 nodes active. You do not get those skill points back. In order to get those skill points, I would actually have to go back and add some more SP, or convert it through using one of the methods that we mentioned earlier. So you do have to take all that into consideration. I'm going to leave them as it is for now so that there's no other changes that need to be made. So just, again, take that into consideration. Now, what we're going to do, as I mentioned to you guys, we're going to go through different styles of play and what to focus on maybe. Just some raw ideas, just throwing them out there for you guys, at least give you a starting point. This is a lot to take in, and it's a totally new way of looking at the skills and how to actually, modify your mechs to your liking. So, again, I mentioned the Javelin 10P. It's all short range, it's all brawly, and it's all missiles. So it was very easy to figure out what I wanted to do. So a brawly, lighter build. Obviously, you want to make sure if you're brawly and very short range, I mean, even more critical than before is the armor structure tree. I want to make sure that if I'm dipping in and dipping out of situations, I do it very quickly. Kinetic burst and everything, that's applicable here. The cool run, the quick ignition, the heat containment, just making it more efficient. So in case I do want to do continuous strikes, that I can just run a little bit cooler, dissipate the heat a little bit more, so on and so forth. Sensor systems, I wanted to be completely hidden. If you look at exactly what I placed on this mech, you could see that it's not heavily armored by any means. It is a 30-ton light mech, but I did add some structure and everything on there, as you saw in the armor skill tree. So, you know, it's up to you how you want to use it. I even have jump jets on there, so you can even look at the jump jet skill tree if that's something that you're interested in. But again, you know, going brawly, being short range, dipping in and dipping out, you want to make sure that your sensor systems are on point, consumables are there, and then back here, since I'm using all missiles, it's boating. You can see I filled out the entire missile side of the skill tree, wherever applicable, and then I focus on, you know, the heat gen, the range, velocity, cooldown, everything like that. It's only one type of weapon that I'm using, so it was very easy for me to work through this part of the weapon skill tree. Now, if you're focusing on more of a longer range approach, let's say you're taking, I don't know, a Raven 3L, or even, what is it, the 2X? Yeah, I think it's the 2X. We can look at the 2X because that has the energy cooldown and the high mounted energy hard points there. So if we take a look at the 2X, we have the large lasers over there, so I know for a fact that if I were to make use of this weapon skill tree, I would be, you know, unlocking all of this, okay? I'd be unlocking, trying to get down towards the energy nodes, which are equidistant, as I mentioned. You have one here, one here, one here, and one here. So regardless of how you want to do it, you know what, why don't we backtrack and go this way now. So I'll do cooldown, cooldown, heat gen, range, heat gen, laser duration, cooldown, heat gen. I could do the laser duration here, cooldown, range, cooldown, laser duration. So just by doing half of the skill tree, you know, you have the range, the heat gen, the cooldown, and everything on here. You unlocked 3 of the 4 laser duration nodes, and you know, you pretty much got there as quick as you possibly could, going through all this other stuff. Obviously, I didn't have to go to cooldown and heat gen down here, but maybe it's something I wanted, you know? Maybe it's something that I find important about this build, especially using 2 large lasers. So keep that in mind. Again, all of these are applicable to any type of weapon that you use. So in this case, we, again, are only boating laser weapons, but it's something that you have to take into consideration very seriously because, you know, you can obviously work your way through this entire tree the way that you want to. You can focus only on, you know, offensive quirks if you really want to, and then use the rest sparingly across the board. So, as I mentioned before, I'd probably go with this, maybe skeletal density, armor hardening, reinforced casing, and everything like that. So I might fill it out like this. Let's do this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I have 48 that I'm using right now. So there's the 49th, and so now I know I have structure. I have great quirks for my weapons. Kinetic burst. If I'm long range, it might not be that important to me, but I might want to fill a couple out. So hard break, kinetic burst, maybe all the way down to that hard break, something like that. So I have 56 used now. No jump jets. Mech operations, maybe I want to, you know, again, go improve gyros. Again, I'm going long range, so I want heat containment and cool run. Probably not hill climb and gyros. There we go. And I'll probably leave it at that, because then I have to go through quick ignition and speed retention, and then another quick ignition in order to get to the other 2 nodes of cool run. So for me, that's not really worth it. Consumables, I'll probably do that. And then I might fill out this in order to get all the way to, you know, radar depth, and just go down one side of it in order to get there. So let's just do straight paths all the way down. Target info gathering, and look at that. So we're there. We can get if I'm doing a sniper build, I don't really recommend it, but you can actually do the advanced zoom module or the advanced zoom node there. Sensor range, target decay. There we go. Seismic sensor, radar depth, seismic sensor, and look at that. Everything that I want is now on this Raven, and I have enough to do it. I have two spots left over, so maybe I'll go back and do something more with agility. I could enhance my weapons a little bit more if I wanted, or I can even focus more on the mech operations if I really wanted. You know, just for the intents and purposes right now, maybe I'll do, I don't know, I'll do weapons. Why not? Let's get more heat generation efficiency. So just from that, I have the 91 points there. Again, going up to add skill points, I have 23 historical skill points. I'll just transfer them all, and then maybe use, so I'll use that. I have 23, so with the 23 being used, I know I need 68 more. So I will transfer using historical skill points. That gives me 48, and then, I don't know, maybe I'll use some generic skill points so that I can get to 68, just for the purposes of this video. And now you can see the total cost. So it'll cost me 3 million C-bills, 16,000 GXP, and all of my historical XP pretty much in order to get the other 68 points. So that is, again, now you'll see I have 91. I can apply the changes, and there we go. So, again, long range versus, you know, a more brawly build, boating versus not boating. We've gone through a couple of things here. If I look at, so those are for the light mechs. For the medium mechs, obviously, you know, if you have mechs, for instance, when I mentioned the Bushwhacker is a tanky medium mech. And what happened is, with this skill tree, it was a shift. So there is a longer duration to kill. There is a longer time to get one of your opponents down. That means you do have to focus on getting more ammo into your mechs. That means that you're your damage numbers are going to be inflated now. So now a 1,000 round damage, 1,000 round game might be inflated, I don't know, maybe 200 points or so like that, in order to make it kind of equivalent as to how it was before. You know, you're talking about longer times, because a lot of people are going to focus on that structure tree in order to make sure that their mechs are durable. They last longer out there on the battlefield. So definitely take that kind of stuff into consideration. But the other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is, for instance, look at all those you know, the base armor structure and everything that I did. So the base armor structure on this mech, all of it exists already. So you can see the base armor, center torso, left torso, down near the bottom. That already came on the mech. So me applying more armor and more structure on this thing, it's just going to be more tanky than it was before. So the unbuffed became more buffed if you decide to use the structure tree, and the buffed became super buffed. So there's you know, it's kind of equal when you think about it, because obviously everything is getting quirked up now and adjusted. So there are stronger mechs out there that can last longer on the battlefield, and you're modifying exactly how you want to run it. So take that into consideration. One thing to keep in mind, though, and I can understand why there still are quirks like this in the game. You know, for instance, if we look at the what is it, the Centurion D, it still has, if we click on it, let's see all the quirks that it has. Can we actually, yeah, we can actually look into it. So, you know, it already had the existing quirks on there, okay? The existing quirks, for instance, where is it? The LB10 cooldown. Is it, can we see it on here? No, we cannot. So, even if I hovered over it, let's say I hover over the weapon, look at that. It shows, you know, the cooldown and everything like that. It shows exactly what this mech has now. So, I really want to show it in a view that you guys can see everything. Okay, there it is. Ballistic cooldown, an LB10. Can I see that on here too? No, it doesn't look like it's going to show us there. Check mech stats. Mech stats. Am I missing something? Where are the mech stats? Getting hung up here really quick. So I want to see all of the mech's current enhancements and everything to it. I'm not seeing mech stats. But, so let's just, for instance, let's look at a mech that already has, oh, we could use the rifleman, or, yeah, the rifleman, the legend killer. Let's look at the legend killer so you guys can see exactly what I mean by this. So if I hover over this legend killer, those are the current enhancements that are on the mech. I have not mastered this mech by any means. As you can see, I have 0 out of 91 skill points on there. So if I hover on this, you can see the generic enhancements that are there, okay? That is exactly what I'm referring to when I speak about, you know, the mech itself has the quirks, a majority of the quirks, if not all of them, that were still applicable before the patch update. And that is strictly for the inner sphere, because if you think about it, now you're buffing up the clan mechs. The clan mechs were, you know, a lot of people found OP as they were, and now you're going to give them a skill tree to make them even tankier and have cooldown and, you know, heat gener bonuses and everything like that in the skill tree. So it was only fair to keep a lot of these quirks on these mechs. Now you're enhancing them even more. So again, it is still, to me, in my honest opinion, it's still a fair playing field from that regard, as long as they keep those quirks on there for the inner sphere until the new tech comes out. I think that they should leave it as it is. They probably will, if I had to guess, because now you're adding buffs on top of the buffs, as I mentioned before, and now the unbuffed are getting buffed. So you know, you have super inner sphere mechs and then buffed, or yeah, buffed clan mechs, in other words. So if you ask me, that's what I'm thinking here. Again, for the you know, for the skill tree as it is right now, I showed the machete, and that was like kind of a smorgasbord kind of build. So it's up to you guys how you want to run it. But I'm thinking along the lines of, you know, this being a brawler, it has the tankiness, it has the speed, it has the durability and everything. So it is a very, very strong mech. But let's say I did want to go long range. Again, you're probably looking at the same kind of deal. And that's across the board, obviously mixing and matching in between. If you decide that you really, really love jump jets, let's say you really, really love jump jets. And for this example, I'm actually going to use the assassin. So let's look at the assassin. We can check out the skill tree here. I didn't fill anything out on this mech, but let's say you filled out the structure entirely. You go through maybe jump capabilities, so you have heat shielding, lift speed, vectoring, all this stuff, vent calibration, all the way down until you get to a total lift speed and everything. So it shows the amount of thrust in the jump jets, you know, and that's pretty much just how fast you are rising off the ground. So think about that. You know, the jump jet heat, so the reduction in the amount of heat that's generated. That's what you're looking at with heat shielding. Vectoring increases the forward thrust of the jump jets. So that's something to take into consideration as well. How much thrust do you want in all of your jump jets if you decide to use them? So maybe you're using a backstabby kind of medium, very quick, fast medium that might not have the same type of, you know, maybe sensor systems or something like that, or the same mech operations that you need to dip out of there or skyrocket really quickly to get out of harm's way. Jump jets obviously is a big one. So obviously if you're, and I really, you know, in thinking about it even now, pending on how you want to, you know, format your mechs and make them run on the battlefield, I think that those are the critical ones that you want to take into consideration. If you're boating weapons, that's the one thing that I would take into consideration about the weapon skill tree. Pick a side. If you're on ballistics versus missile, you know, you're going to be selecting on that side, and then everything in between there based on your liking. If you're using a smorgasbord of weapons, focus more on the generic quirks than anything, because these are going to be a waste, even if you do have, you know, an LBX weapon in your mech. You know, I think it's more efficient to use it on like heat gen or cooldown or something like that. Obviously varies in how much cooldown, heat efficiency, velocity, and everything you want. Armor structure, as I mentioned to you guys, I would always fill this one out. It's strictly for durability. You want to last long out there on the battlefield. So even if you don't have, you know, the sensors and the weapon loadout and everything like that that you're really looking for, if you can make it and last longer on the battlefield, it pays dividends by the end. So take that into consideration. Agility, obviously this is also very subjective. If you really want a fast mech that is very quick, can turn, is very agile, just knows how to move on the battlefield, that's when I would probably look at filling out a majority of this tree. You know, for a brawler or something like that, if you're sticking up on the front lines and everything like that, I don't really think that, you know, for instance, hard break is a big deal, or, you know, so you can obviously use that as sparingly as you want. Maybe for longer range, you might want to have some speed tweaks so you can get to positions in different places and, you know, break pretty easily, poke and stab and change your spot really quick. Maybe use your torso pitch and yaw and everything like that so you can have a torso twist and the speed and everything, hit opponents that might be coming after you, or you can look behind you. That's pretty much what the agility, I would fill that out for. As I mentioned, jump jet capabilities, if you're really into the jump jets, you know, and you really are a Pop-Tart kind of mech, I feel like unless you're dedicated to that Pop-Tart, you're not really going to want to look at the jump jet capabilities as something you factor in into your tree. Obviously, they do have a base anyway, so even if you have the jump jets or the, you know, whatever on there, every weapon and module and, not module, a piece of equipment and everything that you have is, again, does have their own cooldown, their duration, everything. So really, these are just enhancements to make them even better. So again, you know, even if you have jump jets and you're not using the jump jet skill tree, that doesn't mean that your jump jets like aren't going to work or anything like that. It's simply to help enhance them and make them even better than before. So again, the mech operations, again, you want to do cool run and heat containment probably for the most part, unless you're really dedicated to the hill climb and you want to fill out the whole thing. I would probably stick to this entire half up to here, so you'd probably save yourself, I don't know, let's say, even if you use speed retention, you'd still save yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you didn't fill out the entire mech operations tree. If you want stealth, so you're in a you know, the Pirate's Bane or something with ECM, you know, you might want to fill out this entire tree. Obviously, you want the ECM, the enhanced ECM, you want the radar depth, you want the target info gathering, the seismic sensor and everything, so you know what's going on around you. That's something that you probably want to take into consideration for stealth. So in any capacity, if you're a fast mover and stuff like that, and you want to do the backstabby, dip in, dip out kind of approach and know what's going on around you, that's what I feel the sensor systems would be best used for. And consumable slot. Consumable slot, at least the first node, is always critical, just so that you can add that extra consumable onto your mech. So for that cool shot or an improved air or artillery strike. So, you know, that's really a generic kind of overview of what I would do with each of these mechs. And as I said, every single mech, every single variant of a mech, you are customizing. So maybe you'll have a, I don't know, like I had Lord Wub, for instance. If I look at Lord Wub, and I look at my large pulse laser Lord Wub, Lord Wub the First, and I look at his skill tree, I might focus more on longer range stuff. So I'll fill out the armor skill tree, maybe a little bit of agility here because he is mid to long range. I'm not going to focus on that, on jump jets. Maybe a little bit of cool run up to here. Sensors, I might fill out a little bit more than Lord Wub 2, because Lord Wub 2 is more of a brawler, more towards the front lines. So I might go up to, I don't know, seismic sensor on this one. So I might just fill out like this. Like that. So at least I have a little bit of seismic sensor here, sensor range, radar depth, you know, this kind of stuff. So 20% radar depth, 40% radar depth. If I really want to go hardcore and keeping this mech concealed at the mid to long range approach, you know, that's what you're looking for here. And then obviously on the skill tree, focusing and boating one weapon, and again, the laser specific hardpoints, or hardpoints, nodes, are equidistant from each other. I would focus, again, if this is a sniper, I'm going to probably do all the range, all the range here, the cooldown. Not really going to focus on the velocity, but the heat generation, the range, heat generation, range, cooldown, heat generation, cooldown, heat generation, range. You know, and then obviously I'll get to the laser durations at some point. Probably at least fill up not there. I'm not going to do velocity, so there we go. Cooldown, heat generation, and then I might focus a little bit more on this side of the map. And so it's really up to you how you want to run it. Again, I was just giving some ideas here, you know, not to stick towards, you know, if you have a smorgasbord of weapons trying to fill out this entire skill tree on both sides, unless you really want to mix and match your quirks here. I'm thinking more along the lines of where the cost benefit is in making best use out of these skill points. And I can guarantee you that the armor structure is going to be a critical one that you want to take into consideration. The miscellaneous, that want an extra consumable slot is definitely something there. Some form of agility, some form of mech operations, sensor systems, you know, those are really the critical ones to take into consideration every single time. So because you do want to have your mech, you don't want them to be slow, you don't want them to be obsolete on the battlefield, but you know, when you're looking at slower speeds on mechs, speed tweak might not be as important to you. So you can save a lot by not going that far down on a tree where, you know, if your mech is doing 50 kph, for instance, and you increase it by 5%, you know, what benefit are you adding in taking all these nodes for the 5 nodes for speed tweak, as opposed to applying it more on like either you know, the mech operations or the weapons or something like that. So that's just, try and get into that frame of thinking. Try and get into that frame of understanding exactly how you want to operate each individual mech and each individual loadout that you have on that mech. So you know, you don't have to use all the hard points on a mech in order to make it good. You can use particular hard points on there and enhance them to be even better. I feel like that's really the approach here with the skill tree. It's really a level of customization that, when you think about it, puts it into each player's hands how they want to use their mech. You know, it's not like, you know, the quirks in particular are really overbearing in what you should have on the mech and what everyone else is going to have on that same variant or anything like that, because now you can mix and match a little bit. And yeah, the Inner Sphere, they do still have quirks and everything on the mech for particular weapons and everything, but now you can make them even better. And for the clans, it's just a whole new ball game now. I mean, you talk about enhancing the clans on everything, so you're going to get people that want more structure versus, you know, they want to have better heat generation and cooldown and stuff like that on their weapons. That's just a whole nother deal with the clans. So you're pretty much making the Inner Sphere mechs better or buffier than they were before, and again, the clans buffed now. So when you take that into consideration, the one thing that a few more notes here, just for you guys to understand exactly how everything's working on the battlefield. Now lerms are pretty much overpowered. I mean, if they weren't annoying before for some of you guys, they're worse now, because obviously you have all these heat generation, cooldown, range, and everything kind of quirks that are applicable to them. So and that helps them the most, because obviously you don't have to see your target in order to hit it. You know, you're literally benefiting from all of these quirks and everything. The missile spread, the high explosives, the missile racks, so you're getting more ammo, explosive rounds, range, heat generation, cooldown, all this stuff amplified on your mechs now, on top of the cooldown, duration, and stuff like that the particular weapons that you're using already have. And again, it's just stacking up the damage for you if you're using it on the battlefield. Gauss PPC, the common meta, obviously is going to be a little bit more enhanced now, more on the clan side than anything, you know, because obviously they are getting all these quirks and everything for them, so it's only going to benefit them a little even more than they already were. So, you know, it's strengthening the meta along with pretty much everything else, especially mechs that don't have any quirks. But again, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm sure that there will be hot fixes or nerfs to the power of these weapons and everything as the developers look back into the game and see what everyone is using and why they're using it, and how the skew in the damage and the kills and stuff like that is ramped up for certain weapon types and everything. You know, they collect all these stats, and really this is kind of like an open beta, if you will, before the new clan tech comes out, if you think about it, because once the new clan tech comes out, they need to know with this new, like, there's an influx of brand new players, because it kind of feels almost like it could be not necessarily a brand new game, just something that everyone has to adapt to all at once. You know, with a mech injection every month, you're not adapting to anything. It's just another mech that you have to take into consideration and figure out how to beat it up. But when you have an entirely new system behind enhancing your mechs in your arsenal, that's going to draw a new fan base, at least a little bit, and it's going to bring back some returning players. It's going to kick out some older players who might not enjoy the new system. They like the way the old game worked. So, you know, there's a mix and match to everything. Take the positives, take the negatives, and form your own opinions on it. As for what it is in front of me, how I'm seeing it work right now, I'm honestly enjoying it. I like it because of the fact that, like, now I have these buffy, tankier mechs, harder to kill. That's what I built my premise, my mindset about Mechwarrior and Battletech to begin with on. Was like big, stompy robots going out there on the battlefield, duking it out, blasting each other's heads off, and really having to work to get those kills. Really dedicating that effort, that time, that ammunition, everything, you know, high intensity, really, you know, committing, and not having a flimsy piece of paper mech run around the battlefield and get Gauss PPC to a side torso and blowing up, you know? Now you have that kind of capability with this new skill tree. And I felt like it was like that in the beta before, like, when Mechwarrior Online first launched and everything like that. And then things skewed a little bit, and they got either buffier, and the mechs got less you know, duration on them, I guess you could say. So thinner in and less time on the battlefield because they were lighter, or didn't have any kind of buff to them to help out with the armor. So now I feel like we're returning back to that, and I think that people are going to, once they adapt to it a little bit and they you know, work around with the skill tree and everything like that, I'm actually having fun filling out my skill trees now. You know, making these mechs so customized to what I want to run them with what quirks I want them to have. Probably the only drawback of this skill tree is that I wish I could select what nodes I want without having to go through other nodes. You know, like, why can't I do casing, armor hardening, you know, you know, like that, kinetic burst, speed tweak, speed tweak, speed tweak. Why do I have to go through all of these other nodes that I might not want on my mech in order to get to the ones that I do want, and have to spend skill points on that? You know, that's obviously a pro and a con in many different ways, but that's something that I would, if I were a PGI, I'd probably take into consideration. Is like, why can't I just select what nodes I want? You know, because even if everyone uses the same thing, there's no benefit. Anyone can use it, right? So it's just a matter of how they want to use it. So that's kind of limiting our ability to customize completely, if you will, although there is a tremendous amount of customization. But those are my thoughts. That is the overview. I hope it was you know, beneficial for you guys. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from here. So even these final 5 minutes and everything, I hope you guys made it to the end of the video. Critical information that I'm spilling out here, so I hope it all kind of makes sense a little bit. If you do have any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions, please feel free to post it in the comment section below. If I don't answer, I'm sure someone else in the community will answer it. I want to build a sense of community, especially around this now, because I know it can be confusing, and you know, you just want to bounce ideas off each other and everything like that. So I will be coming out with some more videos and stuff like that. I will do an overview of my skill trees and everything before I take them out, or after I take them out, in between rounds and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how it works, but right now it's all still fresh and new. There are obviously you know, going to be different methodologies behind what the cost benefits are for certain nodes versus others, but again, take everything with a grain of salt. Build your mechs how you want to build them, and most importantly, guys, have fun out there. Don't try and make it into you know, a huge, you know, overplayed kind of aspect to this game that's so ridiculous and crazy that no one can adapt and Mechwarrior's gonna die. It's not gonna die. In fact, I think it just got better. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate all the support. I hope everything made sense. If it didn't, or you have any further questions, again, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I have a bunch of links in the description. I have the patch notes there. You know, I also have a PayPal and Patreon links down there in case you guys do want to help support the channel. If you did enjoy this overview and deeper dive into the skill tree, I know we're looking over an hour now for this review, but I hope it made sense. I wanted to make it consolidated, but I wanted to give you guys a play-by-play, a step-by-step, a thought-by-thought with this brand new skill tree, and hopefully this guide right here will kind of set up, you know, even for the times to come when there are new players and they can look on it, be like, okay, at least I know how it works now. At least I know what to take into consideration about each of my mechs. So again, take everything with a grain of salt. Enjoy your time with your new skill trees, with your new mechs, with your injections into your accounts and everything like that. Have fun. If you see me in game, feel free to stop in and you know, say hello. Add me to your friends list. I accept every single person. So I really do appreciate you guys giving all the support. I really do appreciate all the support. And again, anything else, please feel free to let me know. Thank you so much again for tuning in, guys. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Take care, guys.